Good afternoon, everyone. I am joined by our Mayor, Mayor Scott, our Council President, Nick Mosby, Director Shantae Jackson of the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. I'm also joined by Deputy Commissioner Rich Worley and Lead Detective Jonathan Jones and Sergeant David Cripe. We're here to provide an update on the homicide investigation into the killing of 16-year-old Izaiah Carter. First, I want to reiterate that our thoughts and our prayers are with the family of Izaiah, his loved ones, his classmates, and city schools. The recent uptick in youth violence is not only troubling, but it is heartbreaking. We're all shaken up about these recent events, and we're working tirelessly with all of our stakeholders, law enforcement partners, and our communities to keep our young people safe and out of harm's way. At the same time, our detectives are working urgently to follow up on investigations and bring to justice those who wish to cause harm to our young people or anyone in our city. And with that, today we are announcing that an arrest has been made in the killing of Izaiah Carter. With the help of Texas authorities, 23-year-old Roger Mendoza was arrested in the southern part of Texas. As part of our investigation, we were given witness information that our person of interest was in Texas and was attempting to flee the country. In working with Texas authorities, we were able to have the suspect detained while an arrest warrant was sought. The warrant was approved, and we are working to extradite him back to Baltimore as we speak. What we know about our suspect is that he was previously arrested in Baltimore in 2018 and has a previous arrest in the state of Florida. This incident is yet another tragic reminder of the level of violence that continues to trouble our city. So first, I would like to thank our lead detectives who are here today for their hard work and diligence in bringing this case to close. Thank you. I also want to thank the hardworking members of our department who continue to go out each and every day to make our city safer. Also to our law enforcement partners and the Texas state troopers that assisted us in apprehending this individual. We would not have been able to conduct such a thorough and swift investigation without the assistance of our law enforcement partners as well as the cooperation of our community. So I'm extremely proud of the efforts of the entire Baltimore Police Department. I want to reiterate my calls for prayers and well wishes to the family of Izaiah Carter. At this time, I'll turn it over to our mayor.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Commissioner. We're also joined today by our City Council President Nick Mosby, and we are here today, and first and foremost, our thoughts and prayers go out to the entire Patterson family, to Izaiah's family, and to the entire Baltimore as we still grapple with this loss and the loss of all these young people that we have lost this year. I want to first start off by thanking our public safety partners in BPD for quickly bringing this person in, using the information, to our detectives who are with us for phenomenal work that they do each and every time they are trying to bring someone in and bring closure to families and loved ones. So thank you both, gentlemen, as always. This increasing trend that we see with our young people resolving their conflicts with guns is deeply disturbing. And I would also like to uplift the work that Monsi and Director Jackson and team have done directly with the Patterson community in the wake of this incident as well. But we are all working closely and actively together to bring those who harm others and perpetuate violence to justice, especially as it relates to our young people. And let me be very clear that we did not wait until now to start to do that deep work. On February the 10th, I convened the school board, the school CEO, Monsi, BPD, and public safety partners across the city together to focus on this issue, to see how we can reconnect dots and make sure that we're getting ahead of by building plans for young people that we know are at higher risk to be the victim or the perpetrator of these kind of incidents, so that we can protect our most precious resource, which is our young people. A quick look at our 5-year child fatality review from 2016 to 2020 will show you that homicide was the leading case of child fatality, with 45 young people, youth ages 7 to 17, killed by non-relative third party, and 24 children from birth to age 7 killed by a parent or caregiver. 16 and 17-year-old youth struggling in school and involved in the juvenile justice system were one of the largest groups that we saw in those fatalities. as a way to address those findings in the fatality review report. And in light of that, we pulled that group together, and we actually met again this morning up in the city stat room to talk how we can do this work now. Immediately, what we can do to do safe passages from our young people from school, as we're seeing a lot of these incidents happening around schools during school time, right after dismissal, shortly before, right after they arrive, but also as we move into spring break, into the summertime, how we can make sure that we're doing everything that we can to prevent this from happening with our young people, but also doing something that we haven't done in our government for quite some time. And that's making sure that information around our young people is shared with the appropriate people in the appropriate fashion with the appropriate speed when an incident happens in a school or a community, and doing the deep work of going through all the legal challenges, all the memorandums of understanding, so that we can get ahead of each of these incidences where we can. But that also is going to require us to continue this dual approach because our fine detectives standing behind me, our patrol officers cannot do it alone. That's why you see us digging deeply into this work through MONSE to go into our schools where we know our young people are going to be, to make sure that we're doing violence intervention work with them, that we're providing opportunities for them to safely say that they're having an issue, that we're providing a resolution and conflict resolution in a different way. Because not one agency, not one person, not one organization is going to have the solution for what we're seeing, not just here in Baltimore, but across these United States of America. So I also am asking everybody to get involved yet again with the lives of our young people, especially those who have them in their household. We need to know, if you are struggling with your young person, especially a teen, let us know so that we can help you, so that we do not have to keep doing what none of us want to do. I don't want to ever talk about another child dying in Baltimore ever. And we can all work together in earnest to do that great work, but it's going to take all of us. This young man's family should not have had to go through this, and no one should in the future. But we cannot be reliant and waiting on anyone to come. We have to all work together. And now I'll turn it over to Director Jackson.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. It's obviously evident that we stand here in front of you all with mixed emotions. Emotions rooted in grief and loss of Izaiah, who unfortunately will not see the full potential of the man that he could become, and also feelings of gratitude and thankfulness for our law enforcement partners at the Baltimore Police Department, for those partners across jurisdictional lines, and for our community members who all raised their voices in making sure that we were very clear in saying enough is enough. That we do not tolerate the loss of our young people. We will not tolerate this level of violence in our communities. I also want to take the time to say that with regard to the engagement that we're seeing play out at Patterson in the heels of this tragic loss, agencies like the Baltimore Police Department, members of our community-based organizations, members of community moral voice teams mobilized into Patterson High School no less than a week after this incident happened, and had very targeted interventions with young people that we know were at the highest risk of being either a perpetrator of violence or a victim of violence, to be really clear in offering them opportunities and or sharing with them what the consequences of not making the right decision should be. This was the first demonstration of the mayor's dual approach to gun violence. We've been talking for a long time about balancing a law enforcement approach through the group violence reduction strategy with a community violence intervention approach. Unfortunately, we've had to accelerate when that work was going to happen, but it is important that we are responsive to the needs of our communities, and so there were dozens of students that we were able to speak to in the immediate aftermath of Izaiah's homicide. And in the coming week, we'll be going back into Patterson High School in order to have a larger conversation with the student population around their safety and around opportunities that we'd want to afford them to keep them safe, alive, and free. I'll turn it back over to the mayor at this point.
Now we'll take questions.
We're gonna start over in Lee, and we're going way down.
Yeah, a few things. I think for the police commissioner, could you tell Mr. Alvarado Mendoza's immigration status?
So immigration status is part of this ongoing investigation. Immigration status is not the core reason why he's in custody. He's in custody because of witness information, that he was our person of interest and was in the state of Texas attempting to leave the country. His immigration status is part of, federal immigration enforcement. But right now, we are working to extradite him back to the city of Baltimore.
He was a city resident?
I do not know the information of whether he was a city resident or not. What we know is that he was in Baltimore at the time of the incident. He was in Texas, and now he's on the way back to Baltimore.
Banner?
And he was arrested in Texas?
He was detained in Texas while we sought a warrant, and now that we have the warrant, he is actually under arrest and continues to be detained, awaiting extradition back to Baltimore.
Keith?
Mr. Commissioner, if I may start with you first, and then, of course, the mayor. It only happened 2 weeks ago, and now you got an arrest. What does that say to you in terms of people stepping up? I know in the beginning, you asked people on the day of the shooting, something, say something. But the same rhetorical thing we've been hearing. What do you say to that? 2 weeks later, you have an arrest.
Let me first say thank you to the members of our community who step up and provide us the information to bring these cases to close and to give closure to these families. Let me say thank you. Then let me say thank you to the men and women of our department who work so hard day in and day out. Let me say thank you to our mayor's office, our Office of Neighborhood Safety Engagement, and to all of our partners in the city of Baltimore. And let me extend a thank you to our team and our brothers and sisters down in Texas. And it is the spirit of cooperation, collaboration, and coordination that you see such a quick resolution to
People are
this.
fed up.
Yes, people are fed up, and this is why we ask for help. And when we get support from members of our community, and we had witness information, this is how we turn cases around and bring closure to families that much faster.
Right. Mr. Mayor,
Last question, Keith.
yes. Mr. Mayor, I know that you had mentioned earlier that you talked, you've had meetings with city schools and that kind of thing. What responsibility does city schools, in your opinion, play in this crime crisis that the city is experiencing?
Well, Keith, I'll first start off just to remind you that as of right now, and this is why, this isn't just about city schools, right? This is about all of us. Right now in the city of Baltimore, we're seeing a 29% reduction in homicide and non-fatal shooting. Young people are the exception, and that's going to require all of us to dig in deeper and quicker on that issue, right? Where if everyone else is seeing a decline, but our young people are seeing an increase, that means we all have to dig in. So this isn't just about the school system. This is why we called them over and brought them into this work, because what happens in our schools is also in our community and vice versa. Everybody that works in government, everybody that lives in the city, everybody that works in the city plays a part in this role. But for our school system, what we're pushing and working with their on partnership, as if you heard from Director Jackson, is how we can make sure that information is disseminated in a quicker fashion to everyone that needs to know, how we can get them the help that they need, because this is not something that some principal or the CEO or one teacher can do. This is about all of us as a collective, as a city, can bring these kind of things to a halt. And I just, because the Commissioner brought it up too, I want to again thank these fabulous detectives for the work that they did in this particular case. Haven't heard from them directly myself after that, because yes, when we're talking about young people, people are especially going to be fed up when we're talking about kids who we know haven't even started to scratch the surface of what potential that they can grow into be. And that's why we have to have this happen each and every time. But that same determination and making sure that we bring people into justice, at that same determination and drive, we need to have people getting involved in these young people's lives ahead of time.
Channel 2?
I'm right here. Sorry. This question's kind of a two-parter. According to the date of birth, he would be about 24 years old. So was he a student or affiliated with the high school in any capacity? And also, do we have a motive? I know that it's still under investigation, but is there a motive at this time?
We do not have a motive at this time. He was not, is our information, he was not a student at the school. And so this is this is why we have the conversation. This is why the mayor convened all of us this morning, so that we can get to understand what's happening in schools, what's happening in neighborhoods, and how does it get to the school or to the students as they're coming and going to and from school.
So that is his accurate date of birth, he's 24.
I think he's 23,
Okay.
yes.
And I'll just add to that, I think it's important for us to note too, and you hear us talk about this a lot, especially with adults and the small minor things that are resulting in people using guns, which we know there's an overprevalence of them on our streets. But we often don't talk about that for our young people, right? And the impacts that growing up in West and East and Southeast Baltimore already has on our young people. But when you add on to that the impacts of a pandemic, the social isolation, all the things that have happened for them, this is why we consistently say, and we're going to continue to say, that this has to be a dual approach, right? Because young people are getting into basic fights, and these things are escalating to the fact where someone's dying, right? And we see that across the country, and that's why we have to do both. Yes, we have to make sure that our law enforcement partners are out there doing the work that they do each and every day, but we also have to get ahead of these things by interceding and helping our young people to understand there's a different way, talking to them, their families, their caregivers, and providing opportunities. There isn't one solution to what we're seeing, and we cannot stress that enough.
Channel 11, other questions? Okay. All right,
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Hey guys, just to let everybody know, BPD will send out the official release and the mugshot as soon as I get back to the desk. So you'll have that information. If you have any follow-up questions, please reach out to me.
They're trying to get